Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Tuesday, and all today's guests, as mentioned, brought to you by our title sponsor, Able Auctions, ableauctions.ca, as we bring in TSN Scouting Director Craig Button. Craig, thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
I am fantastic today, gentlemen. How are you guys doing today?
Lovely. Very, very well. Before we get into the Canucks, how much did you enjoy 15 goals, 102 penalty minutes, Tampa Bay Buffalo the other night?
Yeah, we don't see games like that very often anymore. And, it kind of felt like a little bit of a throwback with all the fighting and all the goals. And, you think about how well Buffalo has played this year, and really since December 1st, they've been the best team in the league. And you're going up against a good team in Tampa Bay, and you want to show, hey, we're in your class. And certainly they did. And, right now Buffalo is a team that doesn't matter who they're playing, doesn't matter what the situation in the game is. And that game was a great example. They're up 4-1, they're down 7-5. They just believe that they're going to win. And that's a scary proposition if you're an opponent playing a team like that.
Last night here in Vancouver, Senators beat the Canucks 2-0. I'm going to ask the obvious question here because I thought this player just stood out like a sore thumb. But is Tim Stützle not one of the most dangerous players in the National Hockey League right now?
Yeah, I think he is, Donnie. And, let's rewind a little bit. Let's go back to that draft.
Yeah.
He was the third pick in that draft. Byfield was 2, and Alexis Lafreniere was number 1. It's not even close. He's the best player in the draft. And Jake Sanderson, who didn't play last night, might be the second best player in that draft. I mean, just an unbelievable fortune for the Ottawa Senators. And Tim Stützle makes stuff happen, and he's a superstar.
We all remember Alex Trebek making that or announcing that draft pick for the Ottawa Senators. Another player last night that Canucks Canuck fans were focused on, and certainly the Canucks were as well. But what do you think the Canucks have in 6'9", 242-pound waiver wire pickup, Curtis Douglas?
Yeah, I mean, I've watched Curtis for a long time, and Curtis gives you everything he's got. He gives you all that 6'9". I mean, his skill level is average at best, but he's going to get invested in the hard parts of the game. And when you talk about competing, there's different ways to compete. And I think that Curtis, given some opportunity to just kind of get his feet wet and to dive in there, he'll do it. And he'll do it like with full investment. So you root for a player like Curtis, who, again, average skill, but all kinds of will.
Hey, Craig, let's go to the deadline on Friday. The Canucks, they didn't move Kane or Bluger. A lot of people wanted both gone. They just couldn't, according to them, nobody called on them. What'd you think of their deadline on Friday?
Well, it's interesting, right? Well, I mean, they traded Connor Garland, and, they did move Connor along. And, I think for Columbus, it's a good move. But Vancouver has stated what they're going to do. I mean, we saw them. I mean, they made some pretty big trades. And we kind of said the trade deadline period began with the Quinn Hughes trade. So you look, okay, so that's a big deal. You trade Kiefer Sherwood, and then you go and trade Connor Garland. I mean, they've been trying to acquire some picks, and they're going to go that route right now. But when you think about, from what I understand, there was just about no interest in Evander Kane. And from what I understand, no interest in Teddy Bluger.
Wow. You think Bluger?
You need interested parties, right? You can put your house up for sale, but if nobody wants to buy it, doesn't matter, what you're doing. Doesn't matter what the curtains look like, how nice the kitchen is. There just was like, I'm surprised Evander Kane didn't garner more interest. I understand the Bluger. I do understand the Bluger. Surprises me that there wouldn't have been interest in Evander Kane.
So Canucks are in 32nd, 18 games to go. What do you want to see from the players? Like, they're not going to score a ton. There's not much skill here. Culture has been a problem. Like, what should they be doing in the last 18 games that would make you feel good, Craig, about slowly turning the ship around?
Yeah, well, what I would say is that you want to get some younger players. We just talked about Curtis Douglas, right?
Yeah.
So Curtis Douglas, lots of will. So allow him to play. Get some younger players, that enthusiasm, that youthful exuberance, and allow them. And some of the players you might be given a chance to might not be ready, but that doesn't matter. What you're doing is you're bringing in that wide-eyed enthusiasm and trying to have that energy kind of filter through your team. And I think that that's important. And I think for those players, it becomes important for their development. They might not be ready, but they get a real taste of the NHL, how fast it is, how quick you got to make decisions, how strong the players are. And that should help them as they move through their summer months of trying to get prepared. So that's what I would say. I mean, the players are proud. I mean, players aren't going to just go and mail it in or, tank or whatnot. But I think to keep the enthusiasm up and players that have been in the league kind of reflect a little bit and see themselves in some of these younger players and look back and go, oh, I remember what that was like. And if I'm managing the team, that's what I'd be trying to do right now.
Craig, Sunday in Vegas, impressive goal by Vasily Podkolzin, career high 15th for the Oilers. What are you? And I know he's playing with Draisaitl, but what are you seeing from him in Edmonton that you didn't see from him when he played in Vancouver?
Yeah, Vasily is a player that's always played with a lot of drive and a lot of determination. I think what ends up happening, Donnie, in the case of Podkolzin specifically, and in the case of other players like him, is that you draft a player, and I think in a number of cases, teams overproject players, and then because they overproject and they don't get to a realization of what a player is, now they become disappointed in the player, and then they trade the player, and then the player ends up in a different situation where that team appreciates what he is. He doesn't have expectations of being something that he isn't. Yeah. He just needs to go in and be who he is. I think that's exactly what's happened with Vasily. You think about, and I know you say he's playing with Draisaitl, but it's not easy playing with good players. You got to do your part to play with good players. And I saw it here with Sam Bennett. Sam Bennett was the 4th overall pick, and they had to have him in the NHL, had to have him there. Oh, then he wasn't doing this, wasn't doing that. Sam Bennett was always the same player they drafted, but they overprojected him. Then they became really disappointed in him, and then they traded him. And at the end of the day, I think the biggest, you draft players, and you have to have a range. Okay, what could they be? What do you think the range is? And a sliding scale, I call it. And then you measure it on there. But if your sliding scale is not realistic, inevitably the pressure on the player and then the disappointment from the organization collide, and you end up where the Oilers ended up having Vasily Podkolzin, and the Florida Panthers ended up with Sam Bennett. And those are just 2 examples. And at the end of it all, you got to be really careful. That draft, but understand what you're getting. That's really, really important, because there's nothing more erroneous than overprojecting a player and then being mad at the player because you overprojected him. Yep. It's not the player's fault; it's your fault.
13 games tonight. Have a lot of fun watching them, Craig. Oilers in Colorado. Can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, me either. That'll be a good test for the Oilers. They went into Vegas and played pretty well. They go into Dallas on Thursday, so it's a test here for the Oilers to see if they can try to get a grip on the Pacific.
Outstanding. Craig, thanks so much. We'll talk to you next Tuesday.
Thank you, gentlemen.